Joining us now, legal analyst, former U.S. Attorney to the District of Columbia. It is Joe DeGeneva. Joe, good morning. Happy Monday.
And the same to you.
Hey, Joe, I know that this is an exciting day because in the interest of searching for truth, justice, and the American way, the Mueller grand jury has been extended. I know you are probably so excited about this. We're finally going to get to the bottom of this Russian collusion and invasion in our elections.
This was a ministerial act, meaning that it was of no significance whatsoever. I saw all of the breathless idiots on CNN, MSNBC, and the major networks on Sunday just absolutely almost orgasmic about this extension. This is necessary for Mr. Mueller to complete his work. And there are obviously certain things that have to be cleaned up, and there may actually be some additional information that they have to take testimony from, but this is of no significance whatsoever. And he actually doesn't even need the extension of the grand jury to issue his report to the Attorney General. And let me remind everybody, his report goes only to the Attorney General. It does not go to the public, and it does not go to Congress. And because it contains grand jury information, it cannot be made public unless and until there is a court order and completely obliterating most of what will be in the report.
So that move by the Mueller team to extend this, that was a pro forma move. That was not of significance?
Yes, it means nothing. I mean, obviously they have to have the grand jury continue in order to continue to do any work like return any irrelevant indictments having nothing to do with Russian collusion. By the way, just again, one more time, the Russian collusion part of this investigation has been over for a very long time. All of these other indictments of bots and companies and people who will never show up in court from Russia are just ludicrous examples of what happens when you allow something like this to occur, that is the appointment of a special counsel. And we can thank Rod Rosenstein, the disgraced Deputy Attorney General, who sits there still waiting for Bill Barr to come in and fire him.
So as of this morning, does it seem likely to you that that Mueller's investigation is indeed about to end?
Well, I don't think there's any doubt that it is over with regard to Russian collusion and any illegal activity with regard to that part. And I have no idea what that illegal activity would be because, again, everything that Michael Flynn did and George Papadopoulos and Carter Page and all of that was legal activity, communicating with Russian nationals, even if they were foreign officials. That's all legal activity. So what Mueller could possibly be investigating now is beyond me, other than poor Jerome Corsi or Roger Stone. Who knows? I mean, this is so bizarre. What I want to know is what happened to Tony Podesta, the guy who did exactly what Paul Manafort did with his company. Where's the indictment of Podesta? Where's the indictment of McCabe? What's going on with the U.S. Attorney's Office in the District of Columbia? How long is it going to take to figure out what to do about McCabe?
But what about
charge him or let him go?
What, Joe, about Christopher Steele? Christopher Steele, there was a criminal referral made to the FBI, to the Justice Department, about Christopher Steele, and that he had lied to the FBI about his contacts with the media. Nothing, as far as I know, is ever done with that.
When all is said and done, Jeff Sessions will go down in history as one of the worst attorney generals ever. Now, why do I say that? He has a lot of friends out there in our listening audience. Here's why. When you become attorney general, you take it lock, stock, and barrel. You take the good with the bad. When you become attorney general during a constitutional crisis where the opposing party tried to steal the election from you during the election, during the transition, and after the inauguration, you have a duty to stand up for the Constitution and the rule of law. Jeff Sessions did none of that. He ran for cover. He hid. He gave his authority to the Deputy Attorney General, a never-Trumper, Rod Rosenstein, and created a constitutional catastrophe. Thank you, Jeff.
Well, now, since you seem to feel that this is over, why would Adam Schiff be saying that he wants to move quickly to provide the interview transcripts of their witnesses that they interviewed to the Mueller investigation for possible perjury?
That Adam Schiff has been engaged in for more than 2 years, which is a lie. There is evidence of Russian collusion, Adam Schiff tells us, but he can't make it public. Look, this is a joke. Adam Schiff is a very smart, conniving, sniveling little leftist. Make no mistake about it. Adam Schiff is very smart. He's a very, very good thinker, but he's a fundamentally dishonest person. You put those two things together, and it spells tyranny. He is going to be one of the most abusive chairmen of the Intelligence Committee in the history of our country. He wants to send transcripts to Mueller. You know what Mueller wants from him? Nothing. Nothing. Mueller already knows what those people told the committee because the committee made that information available to them previously. They didn't want it except in a few circumstances.
Interesting. Let me ask you about the legality of something else that's going on, which is the president last week in that press conference and then over the weekend doubling down on the notion that he could actually declare a national emergency in order to get a border wall constructed. Help us sort this out, how a national emergency works here, and if the president would be in the right by doing that.
Well, here's how it works. Under Article 2 of the Constitution, all executive power vests in a president. Donald Trump is the president. He has the power under Article 2 to declare a national emergency. There is also something called the National Emergencies Act, which was passed in 1976 to prevent national emergencies for going on for years and years and years. That puts procedural limitations, but they are of no constitutional significance. The real issue is, once the president declares an emergency, which he has the power to do, where does he get the money to implement it? In this case, the national emergency is the border. And anyone who thinks that 60,000 people coming across in a single month illegally is not an emergency is a moron. So there is a national emergency at our southern border. The president clearly has the authority to declare that emergency under Article 2 and under the National Emergencies Act. There is unspent money in the Department of Defense budget of about $100 billion. It's called unobligated but appropriated money. In other words, it's been authorized, it's been appropriated, and it's sitting there waiting for contracts to be let for it. He does have the authority to use that money. Now, it will be challenged in court by somebody living in Hawaii or San Francisco, and then we will watch this nonsense play out for a number of months while John Roberts sits there trying to figure out if he's going to be a conservative or a liberal jurist. But yes, the president has the power to declare a national emergency, and there is money that he can spend, and it will be challenged.
Yeah, it's going to be very interesting to see what happens because it's really more of a political constraint on him, really not a legal one. Joe, thank you so much. We always appreciate it when you join us and you make us smarter. Have a great week.
Happy New Year. Happy New Year.
All right, we are just learning, as I touched on in the prior segment here, that a federal grand jury in Washington, D.C., which special counsel Mueller's team has been using, has been extended. The original term of 18 months expired today. We're told it was extended by an additional 6 months. There's no way to confirm that. But sources in the courthouse are telling our producers there that the extension is for another 6 months. Typically, a grand jury term caps out at 24 months. So this has been going on for 18 months. So that would mean at the very least that this investigation will go into the summer. And that's just when it's wrapped up. It doesn't necessarily mean that the full report and the full findings are released, but it does give you a sense that this could drag on a while. Reaction now from Democratic strategist Christy Seltzer and the Wall Street Journal's Dan Henninger. Dan, what do you think?
I suppose, Neil, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to extend out for 6 months, but it is obviously going to go forward now. And, you know, a couple things here, Neil. This is the problem with special prosecutors. We used to have an independent counsel law back in the Reagan years. Congress ended the independent counsel law because these investigations tend to go on forever, years and years. And the independent counsel or special prosecutor, there is a question of accountability. And I would say here, Neil, that if this thing starts dragging on, that once the new Attorney General hopefully is confirmed, William Barr, that I think Attorney General Barr and Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein probably should call in Robert Mueller and ask him to explain exactly what he has and what is going on, rather than let this thing simply extend indefinitely into the future, hanging over the American system as it has for the past 18 months.
Christy, what do you think?
I think that's amazing. This has been an amazingly successful investigation so far by Mueller, in that he has received already 5 guilty pleas, not indictments, guilty pleas from former Trump advisors who are actually quite close to the president, of course, including Michael Cohen, Paul Manafort, and others, right? So, of course, this is going to keep going, because it seems the way that Mueller has conducted his investigation thus far has been that he's sort of, if you think of it about concentric circles around the president, he started with people who are not all that close to the president. Now we're sort of zeroing in on the people who are closest to him. We're finally sort of getting more and more information about what are actions that, say, Don Jr. may have taken, or Jared Kushner, the president and his family, right? You can't stop
Christy,
just now, right before we're actually getting information.
You can also flip it around to say that, to use the president's parlance, it's a witch hunt. They need more time to get more stuff because they don't have enough stuff, you say?
I would say that's, again, ironic. When you look back at, let's say, the Bill Clinton impeachment, that was because there wasn't actually anything around Whitewater. They had to go to the fact that he had this affair with an intern in the Oval Office. That's immoral, but not illegal. Mueller has turned over all kinds of actually illegal criminal activity around Donald Trump.
Wait a minute.
I will get to, but I just want to explain, Christy, that Clinton investigation veered wildly, of course, from real estate land deals to obviously a relationship with an intern. And the issue I raised for you, Dan, is if this goes beyond the original finding Russian collusion or anything like that, into business deals that might go back, quite some time, decades even, this has morphed potentially at the time requested, and it might not be the full 6 months, it might just be extended into something else, right?
Well, that is complete conjecture. I mean, all we can do is guess. I mean, these convictions that Christy was mentioning mostly have been for very low-level people for lying to the FBI, not for any explicit crimes.
Also, Paul Manafort, his closest personal
Manafort was about Ukraine. Christy, Manafort was about Ukraine. It had nothing to do with the Trump campaign.
Well, there were 18 criminal charges, so obviously some of them actually did have to do with that,
I guess what I'm asking, guys, real good, is this is a sign that obviously he's not ready to wrap this up and tie it in a bow.
Sure.
And it's 6 months more in conjecture like this, going back and forth. I cannot imagine that's going to be a very productive environment in the meantime, right?
Well, it simply allows the possibility of a Mueller report leading to a basis for the Democrats to file impeachment charges against the president, something that's been hanging over the president's head now for the last 18 months. And here you've got, people in both parties claiming that they want to get on with the nation's business. Meanwhile, Robert Mueller is standing there like this deus ex machina hanging over the entire system. When is it going to end, Neil?
All right, we shall see. Guys, I want to thank you. Sort of went a little long there.
Well, it did not rise to the level of a legal food fight, but there was some definite tension in the courtroom today during a hearing in the Russia collusion case. A judge made sure everyone knew she was not amused over a lawyer's references to the movie Animal House. Chief Intelligence Correspondent Catherine Herridge explains.
Federal Judge Dabney Friedrich gave attorney Eric DeBellier, who represents a Russian company, a stern rebuke after he cited National Lampoon's Animal House in a court filing. Friedrich, a Trump appointee, said DeBellier's remarks were, quote, inappropriate, adding, quote, knock it off. Concord Management is one of several Russian companies accused by the Justice Department of operating troll farms to influence the 2016 election. With reports that Mueller's investigation may be coming to an end, the president's lead attorney said they've had official assurances they will see Mueller's final report before any public release, telling Fox News, quote, we will enter that review process with no preconceptions about blocking material. But until our team reviews the report, we cannot waive executive privilege. We prefer that as much of the report as possible is public. We believe a selective release would be problematic. With the grand jury impaneled another 6 months, Giuliani said the Trump legal team believes it can answer any allegations or insinuations about Russian collusion. Quote, we believe any obstruction argument against President Trump will fail. The real obstruction is the loss of text messages between FBI agent Peter Strzok and FBI lawyer Lisa Page that would show whether Strzok's political bias infected the Mueller investigation. As one of his first acts, the new chairman of the House Intelligence Committee said he will provide Mueller with transcripts from the House Republican-led Russia probe.
I think Bob Mueller, by virtue of the fact that he has been able to conduct this investigation using tools that we didn't have in our committee, meaning compulsion, is in a better position to determine, okay, who was telling the truth, who wasn't.
A government source tells Fox News the transcripts have been undergoing a declassification review since the fall, adding Mueller may already have the material through the intelligence community. Brett.
Captain, thank you.